Let Lita take you on a journey of faith, life, travel, and interior design. Take your life out of the status quo. Status Life with Lita is brought to you by Status Home Design and the shops at Status, and by the law office of Derek M. Hayes at 404-777-HURT.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to Status Life with Lita on Business RadioX. We are broadcasting live from the Subaru of Gwinnett studio in the Sonesta Gwinnett Place Atlanta Hotel. Lita has over 20 years working as an interior designer. She's now a full-fledged lifestyle expert, podcaster, and blogger. Status Life with Lita will take you on a journey of faith, life, travel, and interior design. Lita's mission is to bring her knowledge and fun teaching ability to help each of us design a life we love. My name is Derek Hayes, and I'm the host of the show, and it's my pleasure to introduce the star of the show, Miss Lita Brooks. Good afternoon, Lita.
Hi, good afternoon.
It's been a little while.
We're back.
Yeah, finally. It's great to be back in the studio.
So our listeners may not know that we took a little pause, but we needed to.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah, and who's going to lead? You want to tell them why, or do you want me to?
It's your show. You can take the lead on that.
So we're in March, right? We're taping, but again, podcasts live forever. I say that on every show because it's really hard to talk and be in real time, and
we're in April.
Oh my God.
When you said that, I thought,
See?
Did I miss something?
That's why we took a pause.
April.
I missed a whole month. Oh my goodness. So it's April. It's mid-April too, right? Okay. So anyway, podcasts live forever. That's the beauty of doing this information, everything that we push out. I mean, I get comments all the time about the first shows that we did that when people hear them, you know, it's very relevant information. But we had to take a pause on the show. We bought a new house, sold 2 houses, had to get those ready, cleaned up, packed, moved. I mean, that's a tremendous amount of work, and we had not 1, but 2. And the new house is a complete renovation. And so moving in, I know we did talk about this, but just sleeping on mattresses, having to have the floors done, couldn't bring the furniture yet, tearing down walls, building closets, cutting in a hallway. I mean, it was just a tremendous amount of work that we have done.
Electricians, framers, sheetrock,
landscapers. I mean, pretty much every subcontractor, the trim carpenters came, it's still happening. The renovation isn't over, but we paused on the renovation because I had closed 50% of my retail store to renovate it and turn it into a new furniture store. Basically my interior design firm has a bigger, expanded home, and all new merchandise. The online store is housed there. So basically 3 of my businesses all got a facelift and their own permanent location. So we split and rebranded my vendor mall as the Shops at Status. So all the vendors that were in this 5,000 square feet, I had to move and basically push all of them into where the old interior design firm was, take the interior design firm and the desk and all the furniture and everything that comes with that, renovate the space and move it all over there and set it all up.
We renovated the space.
We did.
Painting walls, laying down flooring.
Yeah.
Just you name it.
It was a tremendous amount of work. It was the entire month of February that we had to do that, which basically paused the house, and we had to do that. Well, you don't just get to grand opening day because then it has to run. It's a store.
That's
right.
Like
it's not ta-da. It's not this one and done, right? It was a lot. A brand new point of sale system and merchandise. I mean, that was the biggest thing.
That's kind of the COVID curveball right there. The merchandise, being able to get things in.
Yeah. I am struggling. Everyone is struggling with that. I was talking
going to
to
say, it's not just your store.
Different, one of my interior designers this morning, she has a sister company, but we've been in business together for many, many years. She has Status Design Atlanta, and she lives in Smyrna, so she handles basically Atlanta West, and we handle, if you draw a line right through Atlanta, we handle East. And of course we travel, we'll go anywhere for a great interior design project. But she was saying the same thing. I've got 5 couches on order for different clients and nothing's coming in. And we can't get merchandise. So I have a big, beautiful store and we have all the smalls in the world, but we cannot get our big, beautiful pieces.
Well, before we leave that topic, talk about the 2 events you've had. You've had the grand opening. You've also had a kickoff for the beginning of March.
Yeah, big Status Super Saturday. That was huge. It's just been one thing after another, which put us on pause. So we do Status Super Saturday at our store in Metro Atlanta. It's a big, really fun party. We took over the parking lot, new vendors outside. We had live music.
I was going to say that was the new addition this time, live music, which went over very well.
Live music, cocktails, food, tons of shopping. It's a really fun day. And again, we do it the first Saturday of every month. So.
It's absolutely worth coming out if you've never been.
Yeah.
Definitely make it. Put it on the calendar. So next month, beginning of April, there'll be the next. No. See, you messed me up.
I know, I'm sorry.
Beginning of May. Now I'm doing
it.
The beginning of May, there'll be the next Super Saturday.
That's right. So. Yeah, and I don't know that we're going to continue them in the summer just because of the heat, because these are outside events, especially right now with COVID, and I can't really pack the store as tight as I used to. This used to be a rain or shine event before COVID hit, and we would just bring it all inside if it was too hot or if it rained. We can't do that right now.
No.
So we like to be outside with the good weather. So July, August, we may have to pause on the events, but we'll just see. We'll see what the weather does. We always make the call once it's, we're weeks to the event. So.
Well, that's a great recap. That's been a lot. That's the reason why this pause has been in place.
I mean, there was more than that. We could get even deeper into that, right? We had my son's birthday. We had your birthday. We just celebrated our anniversary. We went out of the country for a week. What else?
We had a youth group from the church spend the weekend at our house.
Yeah.
We had your son's birthday party at our house. We had you and some of your friends from high school to get together and have a party at the house.
A slumber party of 8 girls. I mean, it was just, we just could not catch a break. And that was just the fun stuff.
And this is the house we're still renovating.
Not to mention, we both work full time and own our own businesses.
There is that.
And have children. I mean, right, where are they in this, I mean, it was just overwhelming. So we took a pause, but I'm happy to be back. I was so excited for the show today.
Yeah. Well, again, it's kind of, you miss it, and then now we're back in the studio. I'm glad to be here as well. All right, so I also want to talk about one other anniversary. You talked about my birthday and your son's birthday.
What you're going to ask
Those
me
are
about.
important, but there's one to me that's incredibly important.
Thank you.
And that's an anniversary you celebrated just last week.
With my dad.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
I'll let you tell.
Oh, thank you. Last week, April 6th, was the 4-year anniversary of the kidney donation that my dad and I did. So he was the recipient, and the kidney's doing well. So it took in his body, which was good. Right as of this point, the clock is ticking, and we got my dad 4 more years.
That's right. That's exactly right. What a blessing.
I told you the day of it, and this happened on his birthday, too, that every year that we get from the surgery gets more and more emotional. I don't think we were even this emotional about it after the first year, and then the second, and now it's the third. And I remember on his was in January. It just feels like we got him another year, right, on borrowed time. But to be able to get that organ in him and get him off dialysis, and it really truly feels like every year is a blessing, because I don't think he would have had these extra years without the kidney.
Oh, he wouldn't have, based on what we know.
Right.
And I'll encourage listeners to go back to a prior podcast where we spent a substantial amount of time talking about your kidney donation, but we also had a guest, Amanda Hayhurst.
Amanda donated a kidney
the kidney to a complete stranger.
Mm-hmm.
Someone she met at her son's, I think it was a karate class.
Yes. It was a woman whose daughter had posted a flyer at a karate studio, and she just felt called to do it. And now those ladies have a lifelong bond, which I think is absolutely beautiful. But one thing I will say, I have always been very open in talking about it. I don't think this is a private story. There is a blog about it up at statuslifewithlita.com. But if you or a family member are going to go through a kidney donation, please reach out. When I was getting ready, there's about a year process from when you get tested and to when the surgery actually happens. The best thing I did was found other donors. The information that a donor can give a donor, yes, listen to the podcast. Yes, read the blog. You're going to get some tips out of that. But reach out to me. We can talk on the phone, and we can go through the entire journey, because that was the most important thing. One of the advice that someone had told me was get a recliner. That is going to be where you want to sleep. If I didn't know that, we had a recliner brought in when I recovered. I could not lay on a bed. It was absolutely uncomfortable. It was months before I could, because there's no support. It doesn't hold you exactly right. I mean, I lived in a recliner for months, had I not talked to another donor, I would not have known that.
And I've heard you have those conversations with people that are getting ready to donate.
Yeah.
And give them some of the advice that you received.
Absolutely.
And even
So-
things you've learned.
I put myself out there to say, please reach out. You can email me, all my social media. We'll cover that at the end of the show, how to find me. But I never, ever, ever mind. I want to use the story that my dad and I went through to help anyone I can and give you the best advice that I can.
I want to say one last thing before we go to the show today, and that is, if you're at any of these events, the Super Saturdays, you happen to stop in at the store, seek out Lita if she's there. I said Lita. I didn't say leader.
It was close.
Seek out Lita and ask her about that. But also, too, let her know that you listen to the podcast. So I know over the course of time, you've had many people at the store just come and say, hey, I listen to your podcast. That's great. And they'll reference something that we talked about.
I love it. It brings a lot of people to my store. It brings a lot of people in the community and from even further. But that's one of the reasons I do it. And I love the feedback and I love the questions. And so I've even got information that has come to me, through the social media channels for today's show, because we left it open at the end of the last show and we asked for questions and stories and different things to bring to the table. We even have a guest with us today.
Yes, we do.
That is coming off of last week's show, or the last show.
So today we're going to talk a little more about blending, and that is blending after a divorce, bringing families together. Last time we ended talking about a lot of the do's, and I know we want to recap some of those and maybe add a couple of others, but we also want to talk a lot about the don'ts.
Correct.
And blending families.
Correct. So this is part 2 of the series, the do's and don'ts of blending a family. And I would love to introduce our guest at this time. We have in studio with us today the very beautiful Miss Tiffany Savage. Hi.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. We definitely appreciate it. Yeah.
That's our pretend live studio audience.
I love it.
So Tiffany is one of the newest employees of the new Status Home Design. So Tiffany has come on board since the grand reopening and is doing a phenomenal job. So you will see her face in the store. But it was very fitting, this topic, right? And I know you're very open about it. And this is really, yes, we work together and we work at the store, but this is really, I think, where we connect the most, because we have very similar stories. We've walked a very similar path in. We've both been divorced. We both have a very good relationship with our children's father. And then there was another relationship for both of us after, coming off of a divorce. And that has been not so great for both of us. So again, coming together and finding that commonality. We also both have 9-year-old girls who were friends, who knew each other before we even knew each other and were friends. So that was really sweet. So I know you have a lot of advice that you're going to be able to give our listeners, but one thing that you bring to the table that Derek and I do not have, and it's your insight, but you have mentioned to me you were a product of divorce, which is very relevant to the topic.
Yes, I was. And so it's really, I'm excited to share this, for those who are going through a divorce, who may happen to go through a divorce, or have been through it before,
or their parents
were divorced.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. How old were you when your parents got divorced?
I was 10.
Oh, okay. So right in the middle. So you knew you had lived for 10 years with both your parents under the same roof. Can I ask you a few questions about it? Okay. So as a 10-year-old, was there problems, their fighting, was that hidden from you, or did you know that things were very tumultuous in your home?
No, my parents did an incredible job with shielding me from that. I had no idea. I mean, it happened. I was watching Mary Poppins, and both of my parents came in. Hey, Tiff, we got something to tell you. I had no idea, and it was an absolute shock. Because as a 10-year-old, you look at your mom and your dad together, and you have your family unit, right?
Yeah.
And then it just breaks up. So that was pretty difficult. But yeah, I was unaware of any problems that they may be having.
Were you an only child, or do you have siblings?
No, I do have a sister. She's quite a bit older than I am. So by the time she's 11 years older. So by the time this happened with me, she was already up.
She's an adult at that point.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a tough question. What you experienced, not knowing, and then the shock of all of a sudden a divorce, coming from a seemingly very happy household, and then that just very abruptly ends, or having gone through years of seeing them unhappy and then a split. Almost seems like that would have been a little bit of a breath of fresh air. I don't know how to weigh that, because every situation is different, but I don't know if one is better or worse for a child.
I don't know, because it was definitely a shock.
Yeah.
And the years after and the experiences that I went through were tough, right? Because I'm separated from my dad, and I was a daddy's girl, so that was difficult. But that's tough, because being an adult now, I wouldn't have wanted to see my parents fight and argue. That would make me feel, uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. That's a tough one.
And you never know. Maybe it's almost a rhetorical question.
Was there distance in where they lived? Were you with mom because of distance? Dad was in another state, another city?
So I was born and raised in Snellville, Georgia, in Gwinnett County. Right.
One of those few people. That
I am a true local Georgian local Gwinnetian. Yes, I am. And then after my parents' divorce, it was very quickly that my mom remarried, and then she swept me up to Illinois.
Oh, wow. So there is some distance between here and Illinois.
A lot of distance, yes.
Yeah, you can't drive that every day.
No, and then, going from 80-degree weather to...
Right, to Illinois.
Yeah,
Illinois.
Freezing.
That was a shock for me, because anything under 72 is cold.
Yeah, exactly.
So that you said that was, you told me before the show, that was a period of about 3 years that you were away from your dad. Oh, that would be so hard.
It was gut-wrenching.
Because all of us girls, aren't we daddy? I mean, that's why they say it, daddy's girls and mama's boys.
That's right.
Oh, well. All right, so we're going to go back into the show. And the way that we left at the last show, there was so much information to unpack, and we felt really pressed for time. Didn't want to rush all this, so we decided to do this second show. But what I said I would do was to go back through the do's and just do a quick recap on those, and then we will dive really deep into the don'ts, because we didn't even touch on those.
There are a lot of don'ts.
I know.
There are a lot of don'ts.
And even as we were prepping for the show and we were talking, it's like this part feels heavier.
It
right?
is.
It's like shaking you, like, don't do that and don't do that. And don't. But there's so much of a why. And we're writing these truly from our own experiences.
Well, it's because don't, by definition, is a negative.
I know.
Do is a positive.
Correct. And I don't sit in that space. I don't like negative anything. I'm very happy-go-lucky, and I just, I want butterflies and roses all the time. But I've been through tough stuff.
Right. And, piggyback on what you were saying, the don't word is a negative. But some of these, if you look at it, right, it's really not. And we are using these to help encourage others so they don't have to go through the stressors that we have experienced in our in our life. So.
Right, exactly.
And this is why we work together, because she brings the bread.
I did it.
I thought it was the rainbows and what was the other?
Butterflies.
Butterflies. You left off unicorns. So.
Oh, well, if I could have one of those in the backyard, I would. So, well, we have a barn now.
Well, yeah.
Can I get a unicorn for my birthday?
If you can find one on Amazon, then sure.
Yay.
I don't think you sell them at Status.
We can definitely find you a unicorn, and we do have them at Status.
Oh, you do?
Thank you very much. We have everything, and if
in
we
the
don't,
shape
we
of a
can
coffee
get it.
table or an end table.
Yes, and we will do it.
That's right. I just bought my daughter a unicorn vinyl mount, which we can sell at Status. That we have tons of people that.
Yes.
So see, we'll have one in her playroom. So. All right, let's go through the do's. I'm going to go through this list a little bit quicker since we've already covered it in the last podcast. The first do, please do, if you are blending a family, give it time. That was one of the most things. Please, please, please take it slow with the children. We used a lot of examples of how we did it, and I feel like we did it extremely well. And I've seen so many examples of, I wanted to say women, but it really could be anyone. I could even use my ex as an example, where they just want a partner so badly that they settle, or they get swept up in something and sweep the kids up in it. And then it's heartbreak, and that's just another heartbreak for the children. So do, give it time. And we could just add the don't rush it. There's no reason to. We have plenty of time, but it's all about the kids. Do your best to get along with your exes. That goes without saying. It makes it so much easier on the children. Provide structure. So if it's a schedule for them, no matter what your co-parenting schedule is, week on, week off, try to stick to it. Even if it's they count on it. This is my weekend with mom. This is my weekend with dad. And when things get really messed up, it may be even for a trip, or it may be for their best interest, but it throws them off. Even with their best interest, Absolutely. It can throw them off. I use laughter to build closeness and reduce tension. I just think it's all going to be serious behind the scenes. It's all really hard, especially if you're having a lot of trouble with the co-parenting. Just make them laugh. That just relaxes the children. It makes everybody know that everything's going to be okay. It sounds so silly, but I'm telling you, it works. When they're stressed out and they're anxious, the more fun you can have with them, go for it. Find activities to unite everyone and not alienate anyone. So if it's sports, if you're blending and the other family, or they're big into sports and your child isn't, then that's not what you're going to do as a family, because one kid is immediately going to feel left out. So maybe it's movies. Maybe we talked about food being your love language, but find those very specific things that are going to unite and not alienate, because as soon as they're alienated, they're always going to feel alienated. Be flexible. That goes with it. Again, provide structure and be flexible. It kind of sounds like oxymorons, but being flexible is probably more so with the kids, because their emotions are going to be everywhere. Even if they're trying to hold it together, you should be aware of that. This is one we didn't cover on the last show, but I'll throw it in here now. Make sure the children have an outlet to listen to them, and it's probably not going to be one of the parents. That was really interesting. I did some research on this. This is tough. They need to talk. Tiffany, let me go to you on this. When you were 10 and your parents were getting a divorce, did you have an outlet?
I did not.
No.
I didn't. Because we moved so quickly after this divorce, and I didn't know we were moving. So I didn't really have anyone. And at such a young age, your friends are your outlets, or your cousins, or someone in your neighborhood, maybe a babysitter. This was all going to be new, a whole new place. So I love that. I love that point.
I'm thinking in terms of a school guidance counselor, a preacher, a therapist, a teacher. Someone who the child. You go outside the family, not grandmother, grandfather, siblings, or anything like that, but someone who can hopefully objectively look at the situation and provide sage advice to help the child, no matter what the age.
My children didn't. So this is not one that I wish I had this information, right? Not all of these we've done correctly, right? I've made a lot of mistakes along the way. Yep. It's where this show is coming from. So you guys can see all this and, do it differently than we have done it. But no, I felt like I tried to do my very best to talk. I'm very articulate. I say a lot. I try to dig deep in with my kids, but I didn't have an outside outlet. I think I do now. We're a little more settled. My kids are involved in a youth group, and they have some great youth leaders that I feel like they would go to. But during the breakup, no, I think that was tough too. Just keep open lines of your communications. We talked about starting new traditions and always speaking to the other parents with respect. Oh, and then the last one we didn't get to on the last show, but is very important. Do act as a united front. Mm-hmm. Tiffany, talk about your relationship with Jason and how because you're very proud of this, how you guys parent your daughter.
I really am. I make a joke of it, but I'm quite serious. We're very Bruce Willis, Demi Moore when it comes to our, our co-parenting relationship. I mean, we are probably closer than we were when we were married, so much to where for 2.5 years we lived on the same street 9 houses down from one another. Mm-hmm. But that is one thing that we agreed upon when we decided to get a divorce is, we made Collins out of love, and there's no reason that she needs to see anything different because we love and respect each other as Collins' parents, and we love her more than anything in this world, and we never want her to feel a disconnect. She's 9, and for Christmas she got a little iPhone, and we have a family text chat that we have going all of the time.
That's really great.
Right, because we want her, we go to every events. Mm-hmm. We are very, very good at communicating with each other and with her, and that I did not have that growing up in a divorce. My parents have been divorced 35 years, and you bring up the other parent and, oh my goodness, then you're just going to hear about it. Right.
Right.
But we did not want that for her, and she is not going to have that from us because it's not fair to her. Nothing was her fault.
Right, exactly. And sometimes the kids do feel as though it's their fault.
Right.
When they shouldn't, but clearly they interpret it through the child's mind to think, oh, what did I do?
Right.
Why did I cause this?
Right.
All right, let's transition. We've done the do's. We've recapped the do's. Let's start talking about the don'ts. And I want to interject first.
You go. Take the lead.
I get the platform here. All right, the first one that pops into my mind, and it was advice that I got from my divorce attorney. As an attorney, I would never represent myself in any kind of case, especially a divorce case. But the first piece of advice was do not talk negatively about the other parent, or if they've gotten into a new relationship, don't talk negatively about their new partner. That's tough.
I know it is.
It's cringeworthy at times because there's so many, and I hate to say it this way, opportunities where you as the other parent can point out the fault, the problems, the bad decisions, the poor choices, and look what mom did. It's because mom made this choice, she's now facing this consequence. It's because mom did any number of things that we're now divorced. That's tough.
All I keep thinking, and I'm going to put myself in the hot seat, and you're both going to have to give me a spanking on the hand after I say this. So just last week, and I'm very cordial with Brian. We talked about that in the last show. I have a good relationship with him, but my son did something, and I went, oh, my God, you're just like your father. And he was like, what do you mean? I love Dad. And I went, yeah, but not what you're doing. Like that's not a good thing. And then it's like, there I go. So I took something negative that I wanted my son to stop doing and spun it in his mind like this is a negative trait. And I'm not with his dad. So clearly he, again, he could take that to a whole nother level. But I shouldn't have said it.
Right. And
it was just the irritation of like, oh, you're just like your father.
There are times you find yourself making excuses for the other parent to avoid talking about what's really going on.
That's true.
Before we started today, we were just briefly chatting, and I found myself many times having to make excuses for why mom was going to be there at 6:00 to pick him up to go to a dinner and movie, and it's 6:30 and mom's not there, and then I get a call saying, well, I've got something else going on, I won't make it.
Right.
And I had to come up with a quick excuse as opposed to, well, guess what? Mom did this or mom did that, and chose that over coming to do things with you. And so I would say, well, something unfortunately happened. Mom's at work, or mom had some other things she had to deal with. She hated that she had to miss, but let's go do it. We'll go to dinner. We'll go to a movie.
Hey, producer Mike is waving at me from behind your head. He's got something that he is very anxious to interject here.
I have a question about that, Derek. Wouldn't that be your ex-wife's job to tell your son or daughter, I can't make it tonight, instead of you having to give that answer?
In reality, it should be. There are times when, to be perfectly blunt, I was concerned about how that message would come across from her to them. Mm-hmm. And as an attorney, I'm many times a filter. And in that situation as dad, I also felt the need to be a filter. Could it be that mom's demeanor in the moment was not appropriate to talk to the kids? Was it that I was afraid of mom throwing me under the bus and trying to turn the tables to, well, your dad tried to cancel this on me, or your dad kept me from coming? And so I felt as though if I hate to say it, controlled that message and filtered that message, it could be done in a very nice way. It's, I guess, a good way to put it.
Yeah, and I can hear you saying it. I can almost picture the situation just because I know you so well. But one thing I don't know if we touched on, the kids were with you. Derek had full custody. Right. So when they're waiting on the front porch for a mom who didn't show up, the message, he was the only one standing there. Right? I mean, they didn't go to her. They didn't, there was years where she didn't even take them.
There was a period of time after a year and a half, maybe 2 years at the very, very most, where she did take the majority, not all, but the majority of the visitation time, which was every other weekend, but then that tapered off to none at all.
Right.
And so the kids truly were with me, and the divorce started when they were 4 and 7.
And that's what I was about to say, too, is I think age plays a big role into that. Like when Collins gets to be 19, and if for whatever reason, which I couldn't even think of, Jason would, mess up, I'd be like, oh, go to your daddy. But now, right? You know,
Right. It is different.
It's an age thing to shield them from that.
Yeah.
Thing too.
We had a long conversation because I came in when they were young adults, and he was still shielding. They had absolutely no idea why the divorce happened. I mean, it was to where I think and I'm putting you in the hot seat a little bit, he was still treating them as they were children. And I kind of came in and I feel like I opened your eyes to say, wait a minute, they have a right to know. They long for their mom, but they don't understand what happened. And you had some real important conversations with them with that prompt.
Well, my kids are now 19 and 22.
That's what I mean. They grew up and had a right to know.
We met 3 years ago. In fact, on a side note, we had an anniversary. Just yesterday, 3 years ago yesterday, we met.
3 years.
So anyway, if you take 3 years off of 19 and 22, yes, they were at the age where they were truly able to understand the consequences of what happened and why the divorce happened. And when they're 4 and 7,
right, it's a whole different ballgame. You're right. So no, that was a good point. I mean, what you're going to say, our daughters are 9, it's totally different than what we're going to say at 19.
Right.
So, and he had to learn that. I don't think that Derek grasped that until just like this in this podcast situation, but you had the luxury of me giving you that advice a long time ago, and I think it helped.
And moms
I tremendously think it helps.
What did you say?
I said moms are tougher.
It's a different perspective too. It's a female's perspective to say, "Oh, this is a parenting thing." Like you talk to them. They're young adults now. They're not 4 and 7 anymore.
Yeah.
You have to parent them a little different. So.
Absolutely, I agree with. All right, I'm out of the hot seat.
All right, Tiffany,
I'm squirmed enough. It's somebody else.
All right.
The don't push kids to like the other person, the other parents.
Yes.
Or I'm sorry, I just got tongue-tied.
That's okay. This one was yours.
It was mine. Meaning, don't push your kids to like the person that maybe you've chosen after your divorce. Right?
Correct.
And I am 100% guilty of this with my relationship. When I got divorced from Jason, I did somewhat rush into another relationship, and I thought for a second, well, if I love, respect this person, well, Collins is going to do it too, and I'm going to push. Not smart. Not a wise thing to do at all, especially now with that relationship being over and being able to look at that situation in retrospect and not giving Collins enough credit to be able to form her own opinion about this person. So I would think that would be a huge don't.
That's a huge perspective too.
It is.
To realize that just because you like them is not an automatic.
Correct.
That your kids are going to and even need to.
Right? And kids are still going to have some resentment as well.
100%. I sure did. I absolutely did. I mean, I call my biological father Dad, and I also call my stepdad Dad. But it took a very long time for me to be able to do that with my stepfather. I mean, he's been in my life since I was 10 and is one of the most wonderful, wonderful men I could ever have as a father in my life, and just a man, period. But I gave him, can we say hell on you?
Yes.
Okay. I gave him hell from until I was.
Wait a minute.
I know. Okay. Oh, yeah, there's the bell. Sorry, Mr. Producer, if you have to cut that out. But I did up until, 17, 18, until I started to wise up and actually look at what he had done
and appreciate it
and actually appreciate it, and he still does it today. And so it's kind of confusing to people when I talk about my dad. I'm like, oh, it's this one, not this one, because I've got two, so yeah.
Well, I like that you have that bond with both of them. That is very, very
all right,
sweet.
I've covered one, she's covered
one.
I
got the next
you're it.
one. So we talked a little bit on the do's about giving them an outlet to speak, but now this is about the emotion. Do not ignore the kids' emotions. It is their life too. It is their life, right? We are the adults, and I feel like when you're dating someone new, you have that 6 months of like, oh, it's great, and you get all swept up in it. But they're
3 years of that.
Oh, please.
6 months?
No, it's
Have you
Oh yeah.
have you just acted like
totally stepped in that one.
for 2.5 years you've
Derek.
been acting like you like
That's
this?
not what I meant. No, it is a
she's
real
blushing.
psychological thing that the first 6 months is all about the feelings and what is it, the lust part in 6 months. And after that 6 months, that's the determining factor if love sets in and friendship sets in, right? That's what I was talking about.
I'm still holding out for that.
Relationships grow, but that first 6 months is the euphoria.
Yes.
That's what they call it. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about. When you are newly dating, whether you're a man or a woman, you get swept up in that. But that's what you can't ignore because the kids still have another parent. And they're going to be longing for that parent, and they're going to not want to see you with someone else because secretly they want you to be with that parent. My kids really struggled because Brian and I got along so well and still do. They didn't understand why we weren't together. That was a whole nother challenge that I did not expect. I thought we co-parent amazing. They're going to grow up and understand it, but in the moment they said, but daddy's your best friend, so why can't you be with daddy? And then that's heartbreaking too. So even in the best of situations, it's still hard on the kids. My daughter had a whole period, and she acts out some, but the older she gets, it's a little more under control. But it was off the rails. How the tantrums that she would have, just awful. And that was just her emotions pouring out of her. And I really had to get a good handle on that. I came this close. I'm doing the inch up here. I came just this close to trying to find someone. And then she did calm down. You, Derek, coming into her life, I think really settled her because we did it so slow. I will tell you, even I bought a house all by myself, workmen that would come over. She was so threatened by another man, even being in my presence, she would throw tantrums. She would just go up and punch somebody, throw their screwdrivers at them. You don't even be near my mom. That she was so protective. I remember, Derek, the first time it was the Brazelton Festival. Didn't she slam her scooter on your foot?
Yeah.
I mean, she was acting out.
Yeah.
She would do anything to keep these men away. And it was a very long, gradual process to, make you a part of her life.
And talking about emotions and the sort of piggyback, because when I was going through my divorce with Jason, and you're, I think, very similar, I will dive into research. And Collins didn't necessarily struggle with that as badly, but that's also them trying to get attention but they don't know how to vocalize what they're feeling. So they're just going to act out in certain ways, right? So
100%.
that's
Yes.
extremely important.
Yeah, because negative
to take into
attention
account.
and
Correct.
positive in their mind is exactly the same.
It's attention,
Yep.
right.
Look at me. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's a control thing too for them. So anyway, do not ignore the kids' emotions. And, just realize it's their life. So when you're getting all swept up and you're trying to start dating and you want to blend, if it's gone to that part, make sure they're on board.
Well, let's do one more. Just one more today, and then we can continue, I think, in the next podcast with a lot more don'ts.
Okay.
We referenced the fact that this list could be very, very long.
They
but
get so long because there's so many examples.
There
We're
are.
telling
Exactly.
you guys how we walked through all this.
personal
right?
experiences with every one of these.
I know.
And I'll kind of wrap it up with a good one, and that is, don't think it's going to be easy.
Right.
It is
Amen.
not going to be easy at all. In fact, that's why this podcast will be at least 2 episodes, maybe even 3.
Yeah.
It's a nonstop process until the kids are adults. I mean, again, my kids are 22 and 19, and technically, legally, they're adults, but there's still times where you feel as though there's some need to intervene with things that they're doing in life or their involvement with mom now.
Right. And I think forgiveness is a big thing with this point, is you have to be forgiving of yourself too. And I wanted to say this at the beginning, but I, again, got tongue-tied. But it's a learning curve, right? Every day you've got to wake up and be like, all right, I got this. And you're probably going to screw up, and that's okay. You know what? You just keep moving forward. Have forgiveness for yourself, for your kids if they act out, for your ex-spouse, for your new partner. I think that's huge.
It is. I 100% agree, because as you talk, and everybody listening will be going through the same. I'm internalizing. Everyone listening is internalizing. Where did I screw up? What did I do? What have I not forgiven myself for? I mean, I had a whole relationship. I've talked about this right after the divorce that I believe was a huge mistake. I think I got swept up. I think I was looking for something that was not in my marriage. And because it ended so poorly and the kids were affected, I have a lot of regret. And I have 100%. Done a lot of work to try to forgive myself, but it's still not easy. I think how many years out of their childhood were affected. And so that's really tough. Derek, you took the opposite approach and didn't date at all.
No, I didn't.
Nothing. No one for 15 years.
I decided it was time to be dad.
Yeah.
But that's also too because I had full custody. And they were young. They were 4 and 7. But I coached every sport they played. I did everything I possibly could to be present for them in their life and not have, and I hate to say a relationship as a distraction, but to eliminate any and all other kinds of distractions so that they would have me there, since the mom was absent. Yeah. And there's really no other word to use in so many ways. So I felt compelled to do that. And, looking back, should I have dated? Should I have been dedicated a little more time to my own life? Yeah, of course. But in that moment, that was the decision I made. So it's a learning curve, like you said, that you've got to kind of figure out what's best.
Absolutely. I mean, Tiffany, I have similar stories and similar experiences, and yours is totally different. So I hope everyone listening has gotten a lot out of this. I hope that, again, no matter if you've gone through it, are going through it, will go through it, this is just the information, the do's and don'ts, and some of our stories and some of our examples. And I hope you guys learn from it. And please, please feel like you can share these stories with me if you want to ask questions. I know I didn't get to it today, but we go so long on this. Again, we could go forever. So I think we've got one more show at a minimum, and I'll bring in some of the other stories from the listeners. But reach out, Status Life with Lita @gmail.com, and you can submit your story if you want advice on it. Again, we're not licensed therapists, but we've walked this walk. If you just want me to share it, if it's a hard story or a good story, we can talk about it on air. Or if you just want to connect with me, that is okay. You can send me that email. And I'm also on social media, Facebook, Status Life with Lita. Derek's nodding his head because I took this from him.
I was going to say, that's my line.
He usually likes to set it up for me and say,
line.
Tell everybody how to find you. I just went ahead because I know we're running short on time. Instagram, Status Life with Lita. And all of the other Status businesses have social media accounts. You can find the shops at Status, Status Market and Design, which is the online store. And that's, getting a whole new facelift, and we're getting ready to relaunch that. There is still beautiful merchandise up there for sale, but we'll talk about that as we get ready to relaunch that in a couple weeks. So there's a lot of Status businesses. This one is the most near and dear to my heart because this is me. This is Status Life with Lita.
That's right.
So, yay. Tiffany, thank you.
Also the one most near and dear to my heart, too.
Well,
after 3 years. Not just 6 months.
Not just 6 months.
Not just 6 months. I'll remember that.
Okay. You're funny. Well, Tiffany, thank you for being here today. I hope
loved
you'll
it.
join us as we wrap up this topic.
Absolutely.
Then in a couple of weeks. So I know you had a lot of more don'ts that you had added to the list that we didn't get to cover.
Don't put it
today.
that way. Tiffany, you're in charge of the don't list.
No,
okay.
You came in for the show.
No, I know. I loved it. Thank you so much for having me.
We
this
can add some dues to it too, right? There's no right or wrong answer here, and all this will be turned into a blog and put up, so you can actually read through the list.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again, Tiffany.
Thank you so much.
I'll interject that as well.
Awesome.
And your perspective as someone who's a product of divorce is also a new perspective that we've not had before, and that's great too.
Well, I'm more than happy to share it with you guys.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much again, everyone, for joining us on Status Life with Lita, presented by Status Home Design, the Shops at Status, and the Law Office of Derek M. Hayes. Don't forget that you can enjoy any of our episodes anytime by visiting BusinessRadioX.com, selecting the Gwinnett Studio, and then clicking on Status Life with Lita. This program is also available on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, or wherever you enjoy your favorite podcast on the Love Boat. Until next time, for Lita Brooks, I'm Derek Hayes, and you've been listening to Status Life with Lita on Business Radio X.